If you're looking to buy a stacked NBA 2K account with max badges and more, visit sportstmb.com. He has been in the community for years and has hundreds of reviews. Click the first link in the description to get your account today.
So today's video is obviously not the type of video that you would typically expect from me, as this is a Hoops Talk channel. However, the topic of this video does kind of relate because it's about NBA Twitter. Twitter is a great and horrible place, a wholesome and toxic place. My favorite thing about social media and the thing I hate the most about social media. It's up and down. There's a lot I love, and there's a lot I hate. And if I could pin down one member of NBA Twitter that I just can't stand, it would be Scout with Brian. Now, I would be the first to tell you that I can be a bit of an asshole. You're going to find that out by the end of this video for sure. But this guy pushes it to a whole nother level. Now, yes, he also has horrible basketball takes. We're not going to focus on that, but remember a few videos ago when I said that someone said that Curry should not be credited for changing the game because Reggie Miller in his shoes could have done the same thing? Yeah, that was Brian. And he had plenty of takes that are much dumber, one of which being that DeMar DeRozan is better than Kyrie Irving, and takes calling Jim Boylen a good coach. Yeah, but today we're going to focus on just how much of a piece of shit this guy is. I'm about to cyberbully. One of the first issues with Brian is his tone and his tendency to question the intelligence of anyone who disagrees with him. Now, I am prone to occasionally call an opinion stupid because some opinions are stupid. But if you know the game, I don't think my opinion is any more valid than yours is. But Brian is a former very bad at his job NBA scout, so he feels that he knows more than anybody, and he's happy to tell you about it. Anytime he gets into an argument on Twitter, he is happy to claim that the person he's talking to doesn't know ball, and he is the genius here, so go check out his Twitter. He loves to self-promote in arguments. He does it all the time. So it's that overall pretentious attitude that makes Brian so unlikable and what makes him such a massive butt of so many jokes. Because he seems to believe that he knows all, and anyone who didn't work in the NBA for a couple of years just simply can't know basketball. Even though the guy who supposedly knows all doesn't believe that Jim Boylen is a bad NBA coach, even though it's clear as day that he's not only a bad coach, but one of the worst, if not the worst, the NBA has ever seen, and thinks DeMar DeRozan is better than Kyrie Irving. So we don't know basketball like he does. We are just common fools who could only dream of having the vast basketball knowledge of Brian. He has a truly gigantic brain. But being a stupid, pretentious dick is not morally questionable. However, there is another habit of Brian, which is asking his followers to support him on Patreon and then getting hostile when they do not do so, which is incredibly entitled. So now he is a stupid, pretentious, entitled dick. Now, there is nothing wrong with Patreon inherently. I actually plan on starting one within the near future. If you have people who want to support you and the content that you produce, then make that money. That's perfectly fine. In fact, I encourage it. I'm always on the side of secure the bag. But what's not okay is being a dick to someone for not doing you the favor of giving you some money by blocking them or unfollowing them. You're not entitled to anyone's support. You have to earn that shit. And if you ask for support from people and you don't get it, the correct response is bettering yourself and or your content to be worthy of that support, or just not caring that you're not getting that support. The incorrect response is being hostile. But moving past why Brian is a stupid, pretentious, entitled dick, let's now talk about why he is a stupid, pretentious, entitled, mentally unstable dick. See, the biggest, most clear example of Brian being mentally unstable is his 10,000 word manifesto on his website, where he pretty much attacked everyone that's ever disagreed with him. He shit on Coach Nick at B-Ball Breakdown, which is already a cardinal sin. He talks about how when he felt people disrespected him, he would cut them off from his content because they didn't deserve his stuff for free. So now does he not only feel entitled to bully people into giving him money, he also feels that all of his content by default is worthy of payment. And even that him just following you on Twitter is worthy of payment. Yeah, I think I'll employ that line of thinking. Everyone that's following me on Twitter, you better pay up or else I'm about to unfollow. He also claims to be above clickbait and accuses people like me and other NBA YouTubers of clickbaiting, and yet he made this video, despite Rui not being a defensive player at all, playing basketball completely differently from Giannis, having a very different frame and not nearly the athleticism of Giannis. Yeah, you are so above clickbait, Brian. And he also goes on to say that he expects loyalty from his followers and that Twitter is disrespectful and he is deserving of respect. That's why he doesn't like Twitter. Here's the thing about that. First of all, Twitter has always been disrespectful. You can't come to this platform and expect it to conform to what you want. You gotta conform to what's already there. But two, and most importantly, respect is earned, not given. I have always hated when people feel that they are just deserving of the utmost respect when they've done nothing to earn such things. Now, there is a certain level of respect that you should give to everybody just by default from being a human being. However, when you act like an entitled child the way that you do, Brian, you lose even that basic level of respect. If you wanted to be a person worthy of respect, if you wanted to be a person worthy of loyalty, you wouldn't act like such a fuckhead. Now, there's a whole lot more crazy in this manifesto, and in general, it really reflects how insane he is, but I don't want to put together this whole video about that because it's already long enough as it is. So if you want to read more and really get into his head, that will be linked in the description. Everything that I just presented to you is the general Scout with Brian experience that you could expect on Twitter of the past few years. However, as of recently, he's really got into some hot water over A, defending police brutality, and B, defending Karl pedophile Malone. He tried to justify the killing of Philando Castile by saying he was reaching for his gun when he was actually reaching for the gun's registration, to which the cop responded by shooting him 7 times point blank in front of his wife and child, completely unjustifiable, and he tried to justify it. He also, from the events of Minnesota from just barely over a week ago, decided to take the side of the police and the people bitching about the looting. Now, yeah, looting is not good, and I would not claim that it is. However, this should not be your focus right now. Your focus should be on a black man that had a police officer kneel on his neck for over 8.5 minutes, killing him, not a few PlayStations getting stolen from fucking Target. If the looting bothers you, with some corporations taking a minor financial hit and a few small businesses, which is unfortunate, if that bothers you more than someone being murdered and systemic racism in America, there is something wrong with you. And then onto the Malone thing. For context, if you are not aware, and I'm happy to be the one to tell you, Karl Malone at age 20 impregnated a 13-year-old girl and then, after the fact, refused to pay child support payments despite being a fucking millionaire. So there's the context. Brian is quoted as saying Karl had consensual sex with a girl that was way too young. Now, first of all, there is no such thing as consensual sex between a 13-year-old and a 20-year-old. That is what we call statutory rape. Then he said, what if she looked more mature and lied about her age? Well, that's still on Malone, end of discussion. It doesn't matter how you look, you should be able to tell the difference between an 18-year-old and a 13-year-old, and more importantly, this happened in a small town in Louisiana. They knew each other well enough to know their ages. Then he said that he made an awful mistake at 20, but does that need to ruin his life? Well, yes, it did need to ruin his life. Unfortunately, it did not. The parents of this girl needed the money that they knew Malone would have, so they did not press charges. So instead of spending his physical prime in prison, he instead was able to make millions in the NBA and get glorified by douchebags like you. Later, he mentions that Malone's family should not get dragged through the mud for what he did, which I agree with, but he later tries to justify it further outside of that, and as my friend Rudy put it beautifully, trying to expose the truth about a man who was glorified within the NBA community helps to kill rape culture, and that's a lot more important than the tears of some of his kids. Most people who know about Karl Malone do not know that he is a pedophile, and I'm going to be damn sure that I tell anybody that I can until that is no longer the fact. So in summary, Brian is a pretentious, entitled maniac. Oh, and stupid and a dick. Don't forget those two. Now, if you have just watched all of that and now you can't stand the dude, well, I would not blame you. And if you're angry at me for having made you aware that this person exists, I understand that as well. See, I was thinking of doing this video on Brian for quite a while because I have seen him be a piece of shit on Twitter over and over and over and over again, including interactions with some friends of mine which I did not appreciate. However, because I had never personally had a back and forth with him, I never got around to doing it. I was just 5% off from being there. However, it was an interaction that I had with him last Saturday that really pushed me to make this video. Because, not to be like a dick about it, but I dunked on him. I saw a post liked by a mutual friend of mine calling out Brian, so being a big fan of Scout with Brian slander, I was pretty intrigued by this. So I went to look for Brian's reply and, wow. Basically said that Karl Malone could not be blamed for impregnating a 13-year-old and refusing child support payments as a millionaire because he was 20 at the time, and the human brain is not fully developed by age 20. That is certainly a take. Now, as funny as the memes are, I know this might be shocking to some of y'all, but I am 20 years old myself. So, speaking from experience, I replied with this. I'm 20 years old, and I know not to rape 13-year-old girls. You are a fucking clown. Bye! Exclamation point. Notice how I ended the tweet the same way Brian did. I'm a comedic fucking genius. He accused me of being high and mighty because I have some YouTube subs and no one should drag Karl's family for what he did, and it's possible we don't know the whole story. Except, we do know the whole story. Karl Malone was found guilty of impregnating a 13-year-old girl when he was 20. That is statutory rape. That is the whole story. But also, as this guy pointed out, no one mentioned his family. Of course, attacking his family for the sins of the father is not right, which would be why I didn't do that, and most people don't. But on top of that, he opened by calling me high and mighty because I have YouTube subs, despite me not mentioning that in any capacity. So that's a little bit of projecting to say the least. I didn't claim to be better than Brian here. Well, I am better than Brian, most people are, but I didn't claim it. I didn't say shit about my YouTube subs. I do not think that my YouTube subs make me any smarter than anyone else or any more correct than anyone else, unlike Brian, who, because he was a shitty scout that can no longer find a job in the NBA, he thinks he's a fucking genius. So I replied with, yes, being anti-pedophilia is a very high and mighty stance. Excuse me while I get off of my high horse. He replied with basically the same shit he said already, and he replies to the guy saying no one mentioned his family, where he said people can grow and don't need to be defined solely by the worst moment of their life. Which I agree with in general, however there are exceptions to this, such as being a fucking pedophile. If you rape a 13-year-old girl and then make it worse by refusing to make child support payments despite being rich as fuck, you are dismissed as a person to me. If you were ever in the mindset to think that was even remotely okay, you are a horrible person, and yeah, you are defined by that. I basically replied to Brian with that sentiment, and he replied with this. Fine, hate Karl forever, and then he continued to make it personal by saying, you just want your internet clout, Mr. 69420 subs, keep crushing what is meaningless. For context here, my pinned tweet is a screenshot of my sub count when I hit 69,420 subs. Again, I'm a comedic genius. Now, I would like to think that what I've done here on YouTube is not meaningless. I have built this channel from scratch back from when I was in high school. I built this from nothing to make a pretty steady, reliable source of income doing something that I fucking love, and I'm proud of that. That's not me patting myself on the back, that's just the reality. So, I did not appreciate that comment, so I replied with this. LOL, that's my pinned comment, should've said tweet there, and yet I'm not the one acting childish as fuck as a grown-ass man, but since you want to be petty, I have zero experience working in the NBA, and yet I'm successful enough not to beg people to support me on Patreon like a desperate little bitch. No explanation needed there, I think that speaks for itself. To which, Brian replied by basically calling me broke, saying he bets I make a few $100s a month, and to talk to him when I get a real job, little boy. Now, first of all, I am not a little boy. I am a big boy. In fact, I'm a little bit bigger of a boy than I would like to be. I am 6'3" and 230 pounds, and I'd like to lose even more of that to get to around 190, I've already lost 30 pounds this year, and I'm looking to build upon that. But my XXL shirts and size 14 shoes would not suggest that I am a little boy. But when he basically called me broke and questioned my money, I mean, I had to reply with this. Yes, I know it's a flex, but like, come on, man. I had to do this. It was right there. I was never planning on releasing the details of my income on YouTube, but I was feeling petty and it was just irresistible. Now, to make that seem way less glamorous than that is not my monthly YouTube payment like some people were suggesting. If I made $51,000 a month, I would not be living in my parents' house, to say the least. And that's not to mention that I have blown like 20,000 of that on a bunch of useless bullshit and food, and like 25% of that goes to taxes as well. But still, I don't make a few $100s a month. I make a few thousand. Also, this was made over 3 years, so as a result, it isn't a lot of money, as Brian was quick to point that out. However, with exponential growth, my average paycheck today is not the same as it was in 2018. It's gradually gone up. Now, I ignored Brian with these replies initially, but he proceeded to say, I quote, "don't make shit," and he bragged about one of his YouTube videos having 130,000 views. So I decided to be petty once more. Saying 130k is hella impressive, man, I would know, followed by a screenshot of my 15 videos with that many views or more. It's actually 16, but one didn't fit in the screenshot. And then here's what I've made over the last 3 months, by the way, since I don't make shit. As you guys know, I have been grinding like crazy on this channel for the past 3 months, pretty much ever since quarantine started, and as a result, there's been a lot of views, which results in a good amount of money. Now, I have a statement at the end here for what seems like a bunch of bragging, but I first would like to thank all the YouTubers who came to my defense here. I didn't need it, but it was appreciated. Well, actually, I really just want to show how they also dunked on Brian. Kenny replied with, "Happy I clicked on this thread, big W, Rusty." Aw, Kenny, I appreciate it. Scout replied asking for a screen capture showing it wasn't fake, which I later gave him with him having no reply. But he also said this was without how much is taken out because of copyright. Now, if you did even the slightest amount of research on this channel, you would know that I very, very rarely use NBA footage because of that copyright. But even if I did, when you get claimed, YouTube does not report that revenue to you. It doesn't say that you earn that because you didn't. As B-Souls pointed out quickly. Thank you, B-Souls. Then Kenny came in with the slam dunk of he wouldn't know. His vids don't get views, which made me laugh out loud. Then Brian tries to back out of this with a thread basically saying, "I don't care what y'all do with your money. I hope you succeed," even though he made it very clear that he cares about my money, but okay. Then Kenny replies saying, "I don't know, I don't like the shots you threw at the community, so I came to say something." Brian says again, "I don't know who you are," like he's fucking Thanos, and Kenny replies with a screenshot of Brian attempting to get on Kenny's podcast, which got way more likes than my original post. Thanks for that, Kenny. That happens basically anytime he replies to me. That's what true clout looks like. And also, Legend of Winning said a few things which I'll show here. I appreciate him as well, and Dom2K got in the mix with this fantastic tweet. So with all of this said, I would just like to say something quickly, which is thank you, Brian. Even though I am 6'3", I have T-Rex arms with a 5'10" wingspan and only have about a 12-inch vertical. I am the embodiment of white men can't jump. So as a result, I've never thought that I would be able to dunk on somebody, but Brian provided me a fantastic opportunity to do so. Now in all seriousness, I'm afraid that the screenshots that I showed of the money that I've made will come off as braggadocious, but I want to be clear here that that was to be petty and nothing more. Because as hard as I have worked on this channel, I've still gotten very lucky. There are people who work just as hard as me and have not been given the fortunate opportunity that I have. And more importantly, as much as I have grinded on this channel, it's nothing without the people who support these videos. Every cent that is in my bank account is there because you guys routinely watch my videos, and I can't even express how much I fucking appreciate that. I'm able to make consistent good money while talking about something that I love, which is a fucking blessing, and I have no illusions of it being anything but that. And I do want to say one thing before I close this out. Do not dox Brian like I saw people suggest on Twitter, regardless of what he says that is morally wrong. Do not harass him on Twitter. He's going to bring himself plenty of harassment with his own actions. He doesn't need more. From what I've seen from Brian, he's not okay in the head, so I would suggest to him, please go get some help because there is clearly something wrong here. Your behavior is not acceptable in any capacity and it needs to be adjusted. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more whatever this is, and cue the outro music.